Hi, thank you for clicking on the video and I hope everyone is doing really well. Today I am going to be talking about something called chaotic eating. And if you see me glancing down, it's because I have my computer here with my notes. So chaotic eating is something that I think it's not a term we hear that often. It's probably something that most people don't know what it is or that it even is a thing. So because it is such a generalized idea, I think that a lot of people probably would think it's more associated with like binge eating and obviously eating disorders. Chaotic eating refers to not only the actual act of eating, but specific behaviors and eating patterns that surround the act of eating. In the simplest of terms, chaotic eating is irregular eating patterns or irregular eating habits. There are some very specific behaviors that could be included in a person who is a chaotic eater. That could include going long periods of time without eating, and then that could lead to binging and also skipping meals, so like skipping breakfast. It also can include the behavior of continuously snacking throughout the day, but not being very conscious of what those snacks are, meaning you're snacking on unhealthy foods or foods that could be considered junk foods. You're not really eating a balanced diet, you're more of eating a diet of one-sided junk food. When you primarily eat junk food, that can actually cause you to feel hungry more often and it can lead to food cravings. Basically, chaotic eaters are going to choose convenience over their health. Chaotic eating falls under the category of restrictive eating cycles or restrictive eating disorders. So there are two very common eating cycles when it comes to eating disorder. The first is starvation eat cycle, meaning you starve yourself for as long as you can and then you eat. The other cycle is a restrict binge purge cycle, meaning you go as long as you can without eating, you then binge on everything in sight, and then you feel guilt, you feel shame, you feel all the emotions that make you feel like you need to purge what you just ate. Chaotic eating kind of falls in between those two cycles. It shares similarities with the cycles, but it's its own cycle. So basically, chaotic eating is restriction, binge, that's it. So it's you go as long as you can without eating, which causes you to, crave food or just eat everything, and it turns into a binge. It's not accompanied by those emotions, those negative emotions, then that make you feel like you need to purge, you need to restrict the next day, you need to exercise. It lacks that feeling that you need to compensate for the fact that you just overate. It's also important to remember that chaotic eating is almost like an accidental period of restriction. You're not restricting because you have the intention of restricting what you eat or limiting what you eat. It just happens that day you're super busy, you're very preoccupied at work, you just have a lot of things to do, and food and eating takes a back seat. It's not the most important thing on your list. It's not a priority. That's chaotic eating. It's when you put everyone and everything above you, your own health, and the fact that you have to eat. So chaotic eating can be brought on by some different factors. One main factor is not preparing ahead of time. So not knowing when you're going to eat next, not knowing what you're going to eat next, not even knowing if there's going to be anything available to you that you can eat. So example, let's say for some reason you're in a rush in the morning and you just don't have the time to grab food, make food, nothing like that to take to your job. You get to the job and you just don't know if there's going to be food available for you there to snack on. That's not a priority to you. So that's kind of a chaotic behavior, is just not being aware ahead of time if there's going to be food available, if you're going to be able to eat. And then also remember that the fact that there might not be food available, that's not on your radar. It's not a priority. So I'm going to go over a list of some signs to look out for, whether in yourself or maybe someone you work with, a family member, just to kind of see if they are matching some of these behaviors of a chaotic eater. As I mentioned, work or other activities take priority over eating, finding time to eat, or finding time or making time to prepare food and eat food. Going all day without eating, feeling rushed in the morning, so you skip breakfast and you might skip other meals as well. If snacks are available to you, regardless of what they are, whether they're healthy or not, you eat them because you don't know when the next time you'll be able to eat will come. So when you do snack, it's probably on unhealthy choices. When you go all day without eating, you get home and all you really want to eat are like fatty, rich foods. Chaotic eaters probably don't go grocery shopping that often because of their hectic schedules, so their fridge is pretty much empty all the time, so they tend to eat out a lot or get takeout a lot. You find yourself forgetting to eat. You do the majority of your eating at home. You recognize when you're hungry, but maybe there's nothing available to you, you just don't have the time to make anything, so you make the decision not to eat. But the signs of hunger are there and you recognize them. So this is a very unhealthy, vicious cycle to fall into. It's a pattern that over time it just becomes habit and you almost feel like you can't break it because it's your everyday routine. People who continuously express these different signs and these behaviors are more likely to gain weight because they're eating a larger amount, they're snacking a lot often, and they're eating a larger amount of like junk food and fast food and eating out, and they're not taking the time to completely process and prepare for themselves and their health. Before researching this topic, I've definitely heard the term chaotic eating, but not that often. So researching it, I was quite shocked to find all this information on it. It's still a very generalized problem, but it's very interesting to research about it and read about it because it's something that obviously I rarely didn't know much about. However, after reading about it, it has come to my attention that I do exhibit chaotic eating habits. I definitely am a restrictive person. I struggled a long time with anorexia. It's almost ingrained in me as like a pre-programmed like system in my brain to just not eat and to ignore signs of hunger. And that's obviously what recovery is about, is relearning to recognize hunger and to do something about it when you feel hungry. So researching about this, I'm like, oh my gosh, I do a lot of these things. I do go all day without eating. I work on a computer and I can work for like 6-7 hours straight and not get up. I might drink some water, maybe some coffee, but I won't eat. And I don't really worry too much about there being food available to me at work or wherever I'm going throughout the day because it's just not the top of my list. And obviously, recovery is a time where I should be making food a priority. I make it a priority like in certain aspects of my day-to-day life, but just not 100% of the time does it take the reigning crown, the throne of priorities in my life. And that is obviously something I need to work on and be a lot more conscious of from this point on and really make an effort to eat. So that goes into my next topic of what I can do and what you can do if all of a sudden you hear these signs of a chaotic eater and you're like, oh, okay, that's me. I think I need to change this. I need to make healthier choices. So for me, and this is something that I have been trying to do anyway, not just because I've learned about chaotic eating. So every couple of weeks, I do try to take something to work to eat during the day. I'm gonna be honest, it is like every couple of months, but I do have it in my mind to try every couple of weeks. It just doesn't always happen. There's still a lot of emotional things that I am working through. There is still a lot of progress to be made, but I am making an effort to prepare ahead, to actually, when I go grocery shopping, to buy snacks that are healthy, things that I wouldn't mind eating through the day. And I think I've mentioned in a couple of videos in the past that when you pack a snack or you pack something, especially early on in recovery, always tell yourself, it's there. I do not have to eat it if I don't want to, but it's there. Always remember that the food is there. And eventually you'll kind of just start eating the snack or eating the meal that you've packed, but it's important to always give yourself a choice, because recovery is a choice and it shouldn't be something that is forced on you or feel like a burden or feel like a chore. So you can use that kind of step in, you know, challenging this chaotic eating, is packing snacks, packing meals to go to work, and telling yourself it's there if I need it. It's not completely necessary that I eat it, but gradually start to eat it. And so let's say you're working for so many hours, you need to maybe put a reminder in your phone, go eat. You need to, you know, tell a coworker to remind you to eat. People are good, so they're probably going to be willing to help you out, but just make the effort. That's, I think, the most important part of tackling something like this very obscure behavioral pattern, is just make the effort. And it could be very small effort, but at least you're trying, and you are trying to progress, and you're trying to be healthy, and you're trying to get better. And I think that is most important. So I think definitely look into more of chaotic eating if you feel like you're falling within some of the signs and symptoms of it. Definitely see in your own life where you can make changes, where you can improve, where you can do better, and then just take the steps gradually, slowly. Don't force anything upon you. Big changes do occur, but it's okay to take it slow. So that is chaotic eating in a nutshell. Very brief summary on it. I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you learned something, as I learned something researching for it. If you did enjoy this video, please give it a thumbs up. For more videos about eating disorders, eating disorder recovery, diets, and nutrition, please subscribe, and I will see you next time. Bye!